What if I told you there's a 1700-year-old book that isn't just a collection of wise old sayings, but an actual honest-to-goodness instruction manual for how to conquer death? Well, today, we're cracking open an ancient Chinese text that claims to do just that, laying out a secret and, yeah, a very dangerous path to physical immortality.
So these are pretty much the opening lines of the whole text. It's called the Baopuzi, which means something like the master who embraces simplicity. And it really sets the stage perfectly. It's basically telling us, hey, if you want to understand the real secrets of the universe, you've got to look past the obvious stuff and dive into the mystery.
So who wrote this thing? A guy named Qigong. And he was a brilliant mind. He could have had a comfortable, powerful career in the government. But instead, he got completely obsessed with this one wild idea. He truly believed that immortality wasn't just a myth, it was a hidden law of nature. And he decided he was going to be the one to figure out the formula. So, let's see how he did it.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to follow Qigong's logic, which he lays out like a big debate. First, we'll hear the common sense arguments against living forever. Then we'll see how he shoots them down using nature's own loopholes. After that, we dive into the secret of the golden elixir itself. And finally, we'll find out the true and very surprising price of eternity.
First thing you have to get about the Baopuzi is that it's not some dusty philosophy book. It's meant to be a practical guide, a how-to. Qigong saw it as a blueprint for the very few people dedicated enough to actually follow it. And the way he frames it is pretty genius. It's all a back-and-forth conversation with a skeptic, which lets him tackle all the biggest objections right from the start.
Okay, so let's start where he starts, with the skeptic's side of the argument. This is the voice of reason, you know? It's the common sense argument that we all kind of feel in our bones.
The skeptic in the book asks the most basic, fundamental question of all. Everything dies, right? So how can anyone seriously claim they can escape the one thing that connects every single living creature on the planet? I mean, on the surface, it sounds completely absurd.
And the skeptic's case is pretty solid, you have to admit. Just look around. Everything that's born dies. The greatest heroes, the wisest kings, they all end up in the same place. Even the oldest, toughest trees eventually fall. It's the basic rhythm of the universe. To think one person could just opt out, it seems like total madness.
But this is where Qigong, our alchemist, steps in. And what's so brilliant is that he doesn't fight back with magic or faith. Nope, he uses the skeptic's own turf, logic, and the natural world to completely pick apart the idea that the rules are set in stone.
His entire argument really hinges on this one powerful idea. You think you know how nature works, but you're only seeing the surface. He says if you actually pay attention, you'll see exceptions to the rules everywhere. And if exceptions exist, well, then the rule isn't really a rule at all, is it?
And here's his first piece of evidence, which is just perfect. He asks, if a mayfly that lives for a single day can exist in the same world as a tortoise that lives for centuries, who are we to say there's a fixed, universal lifespan for everything? Nature is already playing with wildly different timelines.
He does the exact same thing with the cycle of the seasons. The skeptic says, all things wither and die. And Qigong just points to a pine tree and says, oh really? While all the other plants are dying in the winter, the pine stays green. It is actively defying the season of death. The principle of resisting decay is already hardwired into nature.
And he just keeps building his case. He points out that a caterpillar literally dissolves its body and rebuilds it as a butterfly. So why is the idea of a human body transforming so impossible? He talks about how some things, like jade, were believed to preserve flesh from rotting. And then he plays his trump card. Immortals are real. You just don't see them because, frankly, they want nothing to do with our noisy, ambitious world.
Okay, so if defying death is possible in theory, how in the world do you actually do it? This is where we get to the core of the alchemist's secret. This is the ultimate weapon in the war against time.
See, Qigong argues that medicines made from plants can help extend your life, sure, but eventually plants rot. To achieve true, lasting permanence, you have to consume something that is itself permanent. And this is the golden elixir, or Jindan. It's a powerful potion made from incorruptible minerals, and it's designed to literally overwrite your mortal biology.
And get this, he actually lists the ingredients. The main one is Cinnabar, which is this bright red mineral. And yes, let's just get this out of the way, it's a highly toxic mercury sulfide. This is then combined with gold, because gold never rusts or tarnishes, and liquid mercury, which was seen as this magical, transformative living metal.
The whole idea was to ingest the unchanging nature of these minerals and make it part of you.
But this was about so much more than just good health. This was about seizing control of your destiny. This quote is so powerful because it reveals the ultimate goal: to take your fate out of the hands of nature, or heaven, and put it squarely in your own. It's a pretty profound act of rebellion when you think about it.
Now this all sounds, well, not easy, but straightforward if you're willing to risk the poison. But it raises a huge question, one that Ji Hong has to answer. If the recipe is known, why have so many powerful people who wanted it so badly failed?
I mean, think about it. Emperors had literally unlimited resources. They could hire all the best alchemists, buy all the rarest ingredients, and yet history is just a long story of them failing and often dying in the attempt. Ge Hong gives a very specific and pretty surprising reason why.
Before you can even think about starting the alchemy, you have to accumulate merit. To be specific, you need to perform at least 300 good deeds. And this isn't just a friendly suggestion, it's a non-negotiable prerequisite. The point is, immortality isn't something you can buy or steal. It's something you have to earn morally.
And this right here explains the whole problem perfectly. The mindset you need to succeed is the absolute opposite of the mindset of a powerful ruler. The successful alchemist, the adept, has to be calm, detached, and pure. But an emperor, just by the nature of his job, is totally consumed by anxiety, politics, and worldly excess. Their lifestyle itself creates a kind of spiritual static that makes the whole process impossible.
And that, right there, is the real secret of the elixir. The ingredients aren't just cinnabar and gold. The most important ingredient of all is the alchemist himself. Without that foundation of virtue and total dedication, the elixir will always fail. Or even worse, it'll just become a deadly poison.
And so, Ji Hong's case is complete. In his worldview, eternal life isn't a fairy tale. It's a hidden science, a kind of spiritual physics that is governed by very strict laws. It's incredibly rare and reserved for a tiny few, but in his mind, it is absolutely real. Which brings us to a final and pretty timeless question. For a second, just forget about the toxic heavy metals. If you knew for a fact that an elixir for eternal life was real, but that it required you to live a life of perfect virtue and total detachment from everything and everyone you know, would you still drink it? What price would you really be willing to pay forever?